The Purple Heart slid across the glass. Bruce Lee stood near the back wall of the downtown Los Angeles pawn shop, camera equipment tucked under one arm. Dust hung thick in the afternoon air. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in sickly yellow. The counter between customer and owner might as well have been a courtroom bench. The homeless man who'd entered moments before was old, 65, maybe older. His hands, weathered and scarred, trembled as they released the metal. A faded uniform jacket hung loose on his frame. The fabric smelled of sweat and streets. Morton leaned forward, squinting through thick glasses. He picked up the Purple Heart between thumb and forefinger, turned it once, twice. His lips curled. $20, the words dropped like stones. Bruce watched the veteran's face, saw the flicker, hope cracking into something rawer. The old man's fingers curled against the counter's edge, knuckles white. "Sir, please, 20. Morton slid the metal back. "Take it or leave it." Silence stretched between them. The fluorescent buzz seemed louder now. Bruce shifted his weight, camera equipment forgotten. The veteran's hands reached for the metal and stopped. What happened next would cost Bruce $100, but what it would truly cost him, no one could have guessed. The veteran's hand pressed flat against the glass counter. "Sir, please, it's real gold, worth more than $20. Morton didn't look up from the Purple Heart. "I need 50. The old man's voice cracked. "For my heart medication, the VA, they won't refill until next month. I just need." A laugh erupted from Morton's throat, sharp, metallic, hollow. $20, take it or leave it." The veteran swayed slightly. His free hand moved to his chest, fingers splaying across faded fabric. Bruce watched the man's shoulders curl inward, vertebrae by vertebrae, dignity collapsing like a building condemned. "Please," barely a whisper now. Morton slid the metal back across the counter. The metal scraped against glass. "You heard me." The fluorescent lights hummed their indifferent rhythm. Somewhere behind Bruce, another customer shuffled through aisles of forgotten possessions. The veteran lifted the Purple Heart with trembling fingers, staring at it as though it had become a stranger. His lips moved soundlessly, some internal calculation, some terrible arithmetic of survival. Bruce's jaw tightened. Few could understand what the old man weighed in that moment. How many battles fought, how many brothers lost, how much honor could be measured against a single month of heartbeats. But Bruce understood exactly what happens when a man decides his own life is worth less than his pride. Bruce stepped forward, the fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting harsh white across the cluttered counter. His voice cut through the stale air. "How much do you need?" The veteran turned, slow and uncertain. Age had carved deep lines into his face, but surprise smoothed them for just a moment. $50, sir, for medication." Bruce's jaw tightened. His gaze dropped to the faded olive jacket, Korea, maybe earlier. The fabric worn thin at the elbows. The Purple Heart caught the light, still clutched in gnarled fingers that trembled with more than cold. Those hands had held rifles, had dug foxholes, had saluted the flag this country draped over coffins. Morton shifted behind the counter, his weight creaking the floorboards. He exhaled through his nose, sharp and impatient. The sound carried disdain, a dismissal of inconvenience. The veteran's eyes searched Bruce's face, looking for the trap. Strangers didn't step forward, not in this city, not in shops that smelled of dust and desperation. Bruce felt the weight of his own wallet in his pocket. He saw the calculation happening behind the old man's eyes, hope warring with disbelief, pride wrestling with need. But Morton's fingers were already drumming the counter, waiting to reclaim control of his transaction, his territory, his prey. Bruce reached into his back pocket. The worn leather of his wallet gave beneath his fingers as he pulled it free. He counted out bills, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, crisp 20s that whispered against each other. He extended his hand across the space between them. The fluorescent light caught the green paper, made it glow. $100, don't pawn your medal, you earned it. The veteran's gaze dropped to the money. His weathered face froze. His mouth opened, then closed. Silence stretched between them, thick as fog. The purple heart gleamed dully in his other palm, catching fragments of light. The old man lifted his eyes to Bruce's face, studying. Searching for mockery, for pity, for anything that would cheapen this moment. He found none of it. His lips began to quiver. The muscles in his jaw worked. Moisture gathered in his rheumy eyes, spilling over in silent trails down sunken cheeks. His chest hitched once, twice. The hand holding the metal trembled violently. Morton shifted behind the counter. The glass surface reflected his scowl. His fingers drummed once against the register, a sharp metallic tap that shattered the stillness. What happened next would determine whether compassion survived or died in that cramped, dusty shop. The old man's hand jerked back. "I cannot accept charity." His voice cracked, raw as exposed wire. The bills hung between them, 5 crisp 20s fanned in Bruce's steady palm. The veteran's jaw worked, grinding back some deeper pain than poverty. His knuckles whitened around the purple heart. Bruce shook his head, slow, deliberate. "It is not charity." The words settled like stones in still water. The veteran's rheumy eyes searched his face, hunting for mockery, finding only calm certainty. Behind them, Morton shifted his weight. The glass counter creaked. "It is respect. You served this country." Bruce's voice dropped lower, each syllable weighted with truth the veteran's own family might never have spoken. "The country should serve you." Silence stretched between them. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting their harsh glow over the transaction that was not a transaction. The veteran's breath came shallow, uneven. His resistance wavered like a fortress wall with the mortar crumbling. His fingers opened. Closed around the bills, the paper crinkled in his grip, and something shifted in his expression. Relief and shame and gratitude tangled together. He clutched both the money and his medal to his chest, nodding once, sharp, final. But Morton had seen enough. Morton's voice cut through the moment like shattered glass. "Hey, I was conducting business here." The fluorescent lights hummed, dust motes hung suspended. The veteran's fingers tightened around the bills. Bruce turned, slowly. His shoulders squared, his gaze level and penetrating, boring into Morton's flushed face. The pawn shop owner stood behind his counter fortress, arms crossed over a coffee-stained shirt. "You were exploiting a desperate man," Bruce said. His voice carried no anger, only certainty. Each word a stone dropped into still water. The air thickened. Morton's jaw clenched, tendons visible beneath stubbled skin. His eyes darted to the veteran, then back to Bruce. "He came to me," Morton said, louder now. "I didn't drag him in here. I don't set the prices. That's what I can offer." Bruce's expression didn't shift. He studied Morton the way a naturalist studies a specimen, understanding its nature completely. The silence stretched, broken only by the fluorescent buzz overhead and the distant rumble of traffic outside. Morton's hand moved toward something beneath the counter. The veteran stepped closer to Bruce. The purple heart pressed against his chest like a shield he'd finally learned to raise again. Morton's hand stopped. Bruce didn't move. His gaze remained fixed on the pawn shop owner's flushed face, steady as stone. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, filling the silence with electric hum. "You offered $20 for something worth $200. Bruce's voice carried no anger, no heat, just fact. "That is not business, that is theft." The words landed like hammer blows. Morton's face flushed crimson, the color spreading from collar to temples. His jaw worked soundlessly for 3 seconds, then, "Get out of my shop." The command cracked through stale air. Spit flecked Morton's lower lip. Bruce nodded once. Gladly, he turned, placing one hand on the veteran's bony shoulder. The old man's frame felt fragile beneath the faded uniform jacket, all angles and hollows. Bruce guided him gently toward the door, their footsteps soft on worn linoleum. Sunlight spilled through the glass, bright and clean after the pawn shop's artificial glare. The warmth hit Bruce's face first, then the veteran's. Behind them, something metallic clicked against the counter. The veteran stumbled on the threshold, catching himself against the doorframe. His weathered hand trembled there, and his mouth opened as though to speak. Outside, the afternoon traffic roared past, indifferent and loud. What he would say next would change everything. Sunlight hit them like a warm hand. The veteran steadied himself against the brick wall, chest heaving. The metallic click inside the shop faded behind them, just the register drawer, nothing more. But the old man's face remained pale. He turned to Bruce, eyes wet and searching. "Why would you help me?" His voice cracked. You don't know me." Bruce met his gaze without hesitation. Few could understand what passed between them in that moment, the weight of unspoken battles, the quiet recognition of shared humanity. "I know you served," Bruce said. "I know you need help, that's enough." The veteran's Adam's apple bobbed. His fingers trembled around the folded bills in his pocket. Around them, pedestrians flowed past like water around stones, oblivious. What's your name, son?" Bruce lay. The old man blinked. Something shifted behind his rheumy eyes. Recognition, faint but unmistakable. "The martial arts guy." Bruce nodded once, a small movement. The veteran's mouth opened, then closed. He looked down at the purple heart still clutched in his other hand, its ribbon sun-faded and frayed. When he looked back up, his expression had changed into something Bruce couldn't quite read, gratitude mixed with something deeper, something that looked almost like fear. Bruce gestured to the bills in the veteran's weathered hand. "Use that money for your medication." The old man's fingers tightened around the cash. "I'll pay you back every cent, I promise." A faint smile touched Bruce's lips. "Pay it forward instead. Help someone else when you can." The veteran opened his mouth, then closed it. His eyes searched Bruce's face for something. Something he couldn't name. Finally, he nodded. Bruce watched him shuffle down the sidewalk, the purple heart safely pinned to his jacket again, catching afternoon sunlight like a small flame against faded fabric. 6 months dissolved like smoke. The envelope arrived on a Thursday morning, plain white, no return address. Bruce tore the seal, paper crackling under his thumb. The letterhead read Veterans Support Initiative. Dorothy Mitchell's signature curved at the bottom. "Dear Mr. Lee, we wanted you to know about a fund established for homeless veterans in the Los Angeles area. An anonymous donor seeded it with $500, inspired by witnessing an act of kindness on a downtown street." Bruce's gaze lifted to the window overlooking the city sprawl. $500 from 100 given. One man helped. And then, what else had that one afternoon set in motion? Bruce set the letter down slowly, the paper crinkling beneath his fingertips. He crossed to the window, Los Angeles sprawling below in afternoon haze. Sunlight glinted off distant rooftops. Somewhere in those streets, veterans were eating hot meals, sleeping in safe beds, getting medicine they could not afford before. One act multiplied. The old man's weathered face surfaced in his memory, trembling hands clutching that purple heart, tears welling when offered dignity instead of pity. Bruce had given $100. Someone else had given $500. How many more would follow? Imagine being there. Few could understand what it meant to restore a stranger's pride with nothing expected in return. But the veteran had understood. He had carried that lesson forward like a torch passed in darkness. Bruce's reflection stared back from the glass, transparent against the city beyond. The ripple becomes a wave. Dignity restored becomes dignity extended. He folded the letter carefully, tucking it into his desk drawer. No trophy, no announcement, just quiet knowledge that respect, true respect, never stopped with one person. It moved through communities like water through stone, carving new paths where none existed before. Outside, Los Angeles hummed with a million invisible acts of kindness, each one a seed planted in concrete, waiting to bloom.